Good afternoon. Welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together, brought to you by Purple Heart Homes. We're your hosts, Leah Gutierrez and Devin Alexander.
Oh, right. We didn't say Devil Dog Devin. Wow, that's I don't get Devil Dog Devin anymore.
Trying to be a little more professional.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're trying to be professional. Oh, yeah. Well, is this a professional type show? I thought this was a show where we had fun and
we do have fun.
Oh, but in a professional
In a
manner.
professional
In
manner.
a professional setting. You know, we have a real professional
We
here.
do have a real professional with us.
From the music industry.
Yes.
And but Miss Susan Rash is not just well versed in all of the recording industry. She is also a board member of Tribute to the Troops.
Oh, that's so cool.
And the father-in-law to one of the recent recipients of Purple Heart Homes Tiny Homes.
Yes.
So hello,
Welcome.
Susan.
Hello. So nice to be here with both of you guys.
Thank
Thank you for having me.
I'm surprised you said yes. I mean, I know knowing Leah is one of the hosts is probably what helped.
Yeah, that did it.
Thank
you. Wow. Well, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
You are deeply involved with a lot of various veterans things.
Yes.
And you're not a veteran yourself, though.
I am not. Well, they didn't offer that to me when I was, I'm old. And I remember the recruiters.
Not old.
I do remember the recruiters coming to our high school, but they did not speak to us.
You mean
Girls.
us, the girls?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a
Wow.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Back then they did not.
If you wanted to be in the military as a woman, you had to go and
Was it the
Exactly.
Women's Corps or something at that time? Like there was a specific...
I don't even remember. I had no recall. I remember when the recruiters came to talk to the boys. But, it's funny because our daughter, it's a different situation. Our daughter, who's 30 now, she got a 35 on her ACT. So every university and college that she applied to, they were all after her. And one of the places she applied was West Point. And, you have to start early because you have to get some kind of a congressional letter and all this stuff. And we happened to have a neighbor. This is when we lived in Nashville. And my husband is Rocky Lynn, the country singer and United States Army veteran. And we happened to live in this neighborhood where there was a retired 2-star brigadier general living around the corner. In fact, he was the commanding officer at Fort Bragg when Rocky was serving at Bragg. So he said he only used to salute the guy as he was walking by in the morning. He never knew that this guy would end up being his neighbor. But anyway, his name was General Edison Scholes. And he was the person who actually promoted the woman who later became the first female 4-star general in the United States Army.
Wow.
General Ann Dunwoody. Mm-hmm. He gave her first promotion. I think he made her brigadier. I mean, he made her something. I can't remember. I wasn't in the military. But anyway, he gave her her first major command post. So when our daughter was thinking about going to West Point, we thought, well, we should go talk to her and bring Allie to meet her. And then that way she could talk to a woman who really made a very successful career in the United States military. So we went to see her, and Ann Dunwoody's people had our name on the placard in the parking lot with her general symbol. And then they treat us like royalty. We went into her office and she sat and talked to Allie for a long time about her advancement. And she started out in ROTC and eventually ended up as a 4-star general. So anyway, so we went to West Point for the tour, and our daughter was walking around with the plebe, and we were walking around with the parents. And the plebe was telling her all kinds of awful stories about what it was like to be a woman at West Point. Because they don't sugarcoat it. They don't want you to think it's Fantasy Island or something. I mean, you're going to West Point.
Oh, yeah.
And so when the tour was all over, we were on the parents' tour. She was on the plebe tour. And then we went back into the room with the recruiter, and he said, okay, so what do you think? And she said, well, it was right when they said that the Nostradamus prediction was the world was going to end the next year. And she said, well, if this is really the last year that we're all here, next year's the last year we're all going to be here on Earth, I don't want to spend it at West Point.
Can you blame her?
So she went to the University of Alabama.
There you go. There
Roll
you go.
Tide.
Yep. Really can't blame
Roll
her.
Tide.
So anyway, being in the military was not offered as an option for me.
Yeah.
But yes. So
Wow. Well, but you do have a lot of military ties with
Connections.
Tribute to the Troops.
Yes.
How did you get involved with that?
Okay, so I met Rocky. Tribute to the Troops was 2 years in the making, and I've been part of that charity ever since. Because when you're married, your husband's interests often become your interests, and that's sort of what happens. So, but you guys probably know what Tribute to the Troops does. Is that its main mission is to honor and remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. So even though we're honoring these fallen heroes, we're really more focused on honoring the families and those who are left behind. So we go to their homes, a bunch of concerned citizens. We just stand in their yard and we let them know that their family sacrifice did not go unnoticed and that their hero sacrifice did not go unnoticed. And it's really like one of the nicest things I've ever seen a person do for another person, just because it's the right thing to do. And often these families, they don't know, they don't, especially if they're not a KIA, they get to the point where especially for the KIAs, there's a lot of hubbub when the hero first loses his life.
Right.
Sometimes parades, sometimes their caskets get escorted, sometimes they shut down Interstate 77 to bring the casket home. I mean, lots of hubbub. And for the suicides and non-combat related deaths, sometimes there's nothing. So when we show up on their front porch, it means a lot, because sometimes we're the first people to ever say, hey, we noticed there's an empty chair at your Thanksgiving table, and thank you for what your family has endured on behalf of the freedom that we all enjoy as free Americans. So yeah, it's a wonderful charity. And we do raise money because people want to donate money. So the board, a long time ago, it's been in existence 21 years. A long time ago, the board got together and decided, rather than have to meet all the time and decide what are we going to do with our charitable dollars, they decided to start an education fund. So we buy 529 savings plans for children who've lost a parent in active duty.
My gosh.
A lot of people have said, oh, well, if you're KIA, your kids get their education for free, which is true. You can apply for Pell Grants and things to have your education covered if your parent lost their life in action. But if it wasn't in action, especially with an emphasis on suicide, a lot of times your kids don't get anything unless it was declared as in theater. So we provide that. And we even provide it for kids who are the children of KIA, because when they graduate from high school, if they decide not to go to school, or say they want to go to culinary school in France or something like that, we try to do what their dad or mom would have done for them had they not been killed in action. So we are there to give them, they can cash it out, they pay the taxes on it, they can use it as a down payment for a house or for a new car or something like that. So we just try to do what their mom or dad would have done had they been here.
That's amazing.
Even though there was programs out there like that.
It's super cool. And every year we do a banquet, every other year here in Statesville at the Civic Center. And I think
that's where I met you at.
Yep. And we do a name reading ceremony. And we ring a bell, we invite kids to come read the names. So it's like real for them. Because, Memorial Day comes and goes and doesn't really have any real, you might see a little montage or something on TV, but you don't get up and close and personal with the families. We hug all of them with our arms. It's a big deal.
And if that being part of that bell ceremony, you ask all the people that are there, and I got to tell you, I'm tearing up thinking about it. I mean,
I got chills.
it's a tremendous thing.
It is. It means a lot. And so when people come and hang out with us, they usually come back, because you don't really get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break right there. You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together.
Michael and Tamara Benfield. I was in the Navy for 20 years, retired 2005. I was on site at a customer, and what happened was my right leg collapsed. So that was the beginning of June 2012, and then by the end of June, I couldn't walk enough to keep working. It went down that fast. So I have a cervical spinal stenosis, and I still have it, and I still deal with it. It got to the point where all I could do was go from the bed to the wheelchair. Beginning of everything, and when I was in the wheelchair and I couldn't even hold my head up, I was using a neck brace. I went to the VA office in Mooresville, and he saw me. He said, I know exactly who can help you guys. Purple Heart Homes took it on, and they started plan is to build a wheelchair accessible addition to our house. God's grace through it all, allowing us to just walk through this step by step, and then bringing us together with Purple Heart Homes so that they provided, the addition is actually built 3 times better than our house. But all the things that it provided is just really hard to quantify. Anything that we can do to give back is what we want to do. We obviously can never repay what has been given. But
I just love to help people, and it shows.
Very thankful for what you do for veterans, and that you're there for us. And you were there for us when we needed you. That I can't say anymore, because what you have done for us, and the fact that whatever little we can do to help others, because hopefully our support of you helps you support more, so the more that we can help, the more that another one who is in need can be helped.
And welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together. If you're just now tuning in, we are here with Susan Rash, getting to hear all of her fabulous stories and career and her tribute to the troops. And
That's right.
yeah.
But before we get to that, there's something else. It's somebody's birthday today. And I'm sorry, it's a brown paper bag, but I thought it was kind of fitting for what was inside.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday to Leah. It's her actual birthday.
Pickles?
I love pickles.
She is obsessed with pickles, so you can look at it now or later.
Aw,
but
you didn't forget.
Yeah, I didn't forget. No, I thought though you might want to just take a pickle shot. I didn't.
No.
Nice.
I've got a jug of dill pickle juice here.
Oh my gosh.
Just to wash down all these pickle items. So
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, we would sing the happy birthday song, but Joe informed me that YouTube will take our video down.
Oh, no.
Which brings me to our next point. If you've missed any part of this broadcast, you can find it on YouTube on Purple Heart Homes page. This is a great episode. You're going to want to go back and see all of it or hear it. And well, you can actually see Susan's lovely face. So that you can't miss out on that. And if you want to help veterans, go to phhusa.org. We're assisting veterans with housing needs every single day. Yep.
See what we're doing? Become a Hearts of Honor donor. And right? I said that right.
Donor, member, whatever you like.
Whatever you like.
Yeah.
We appreciate everything.
Absolutely. Well, let's get back to our guest. You have some involvement with the next part of our...
Yes. So being the production manager of our tiny homes, we were able to gift a tiny home to your father-in-law, Fred Rash.
Fred Rash.
Which just, about 2 months ago, we had his mission complete ceremony where we gave him the keys to his house. And that
Fantastic.
was I got to speak at that.
I loved what you said. That was beautiful.
And oh my gosh, that was such a humbling experience. And I had like this whole speech planned out. And on the way driving from Hickory, I'm like, practicing what I was going to say. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. This is going to be so meaningful. And then I get there and I'm like, you know what? This means absolutely nothing. And I just like spoke from the heart and it was
wonderful.
So touched by everything. And
I think I actually cried when you were talking.
Oh, I was crying talking. But we, being in production, we build the homes. And so we don't get to meet every veteran, just depending on where the home is being set. So to actually be able to be there and be a part of that experience, to go, wow, here's the final product of what our guys have just worked so hard to complete, was just a truly unique experience for me. And I'm just so grateful that Fred has a place to call home now and
absolutely be
close to his family.
He is a great person too. He's 92 years old, so he has seen a lot in this world.
Wow.
And he, he's a blue collar guy. I know you guys know this from being at the Mission Complete ceremony. Rocky spoke a little bit about this, but his dad never finished his education. I think he left school in the 9th grade because he was one of many children. You used to have a lot of children back then.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a joke that Rocky used to tell during his show, where he would say, I asked my dad one day, hey, what did you guys used to do back when you didn't have internet and Netflix and streaming? And he said, well, I have to ask my 12 brothers and sisters. But that was Fred's life.
Yeah.
So when his dad got hit by a car and paralyzed, he had to quit school and go to work and support the 12 brothers and sisters.
Gosh.
Yeah, he was the oldest male in the family. So he actually had his Uncle Sam called his number for the Korean War, but he had his draft call deferred 2 or 3 times because he was the sole income earner for a family of all those dependents.
Wow.
But he eventually ended up, Uncle Sam called and he went to Korea and he served his country for 3 years in Korea, active duty, 3 years inactive. And he's didn't really serve long enough to like get any real retirement benefits from that, and came to Statesville, he was hired at Kiwani, and he was, I think, the 7th employee at Kiwani, and he fixed the boilers. He was like the maintenance guy there, but real blue collar. So he didn't really ever have enough to save for retirement or to figure out, what's going to happen to me when I'm 92 years old and where am I going to live? And so when Purple Heart Homes, it started because he was living in Salisbury when Rocky's mom passed away in '97. Fred met a woman, also a widow, at a square dance, and they married.
At a square dance?
That was
the thing back then.
She drove a Cadillac. He thought he was impressed.
She was a woman of means. She had a Cadillac.
So exactly. So they married, and both families said that this was like a very happy marriage, even though they lost their spouses through death. They married, and they were very happy together. But she was on a plot of land down in Salisbury, surrounded by her family, and made more sense for him to move there because all her children and grandchildren were in houses around her. So he moved there, and then unfortunately at some point after, I think, almost a decade of marriage, she broke her hip and passed away shortly after that.
Oh my gosh.
So the family said, you can stay here as long as you want. The house belonged to her son, and he said, you can stay here. And they kept their promise. But,
that's really wonderful.
And, if his phone was ever off the hook or whatever, I would text and say, can somebody check on him? But it was just too far away to go pop in. It was, 45, 50 minutes away.
Right.
So now at his 92-year age, he started losing his vision. He has macular degeneration. He lost his vision in his left eye, and soon the vision in his right eye will be gone. That's the way that disease works. Hold on. Sorry, guys.
No worries. That's why I usually give water to the guests. It's like, gosh,
I've got one. So anyway, he just started having more and more health issues. And it was not right for us to call the neighbor family, even though they're not really related to him, to say, hey, can you take him here? Can you do this? Can you do that? Especially with him not being able to see. Going to the grocery store, going to the VA for his appointments, not safe for him to be behind the wheel of a car. So he knew the jig was up. He was going to lose his license in November on his birthday, and he would not pass it.
On his birthday, man.
He's not going to pass an eye test.
No.
Yeah.
So I called John Galena, or Rocky did, my husband, and we asked John, hey, do you know of any veteran homes anywhere, like old, retirement communities? And he said, well, we've got this tiny house program, but if he's got some land.
Yeah.
So we went to the county, we divided up our property. We had just enough land to be zoned for another place to live. And in comes Purple Heart Homes to bring this tiny home to Fred. And what a blessing it has been. We used to go maybe a week, 10 days even without, talking or seeing him. And I think when you're 92 years old and you don't really have, all your friends have passed away. He's the only, he has one surviving sister who you all met at the groundbreaking ceremony, and she lives here in Statesville.
Nice.
So, he really doesn't, he would just sit around, stare at the walls, watch Grit on television, Gunsmoke reruns.
That's the old
Western
show.
Yeah. But just lived a very lonely life. And now he's right behind us. Every morning when my husband goes to work, he stops over and says, hey, Dad, what do you need? What can I do for you?
That's amazing.
Yes. I cook for him. I just went over to his house on Sunday with my laptop for the first time, and we made a list on Walmart.com of his groceries. And then, it was a little sketchy for him to give me his debit card to put it into a computer, because what would happen? And I was like, no, Dad, people do this all the time. They put their credit card into the computer.
Absolutely.
So he parted with it. I put it in the computer, and about 4 or 5 hours later, we drove to Walmart, pulled up. They brought the groceries out to us, put them in the trunk, and off we went back home. So that was like a big thing for him. But I wouldn't have been able to do that with him if he didn't live so close to us. And so it's it's a blessing. But I think for more than anything, it's the loneliness. And like, that's one of the issues I think they talk about the most for elderly folks.
Absolutely.
They're lonely. And if you can't move into a community of your peers, living off by yourself as an older, citizen is very hard to do.
And for someone who went and fought for our country in Korea, they deserve to have their twilight years be surrounded by their family and their loved ones.
Exactly. And we live in a 1960s ranch. It's only 900 square feet. So we could have moved him in, but I don't think it would have been. It only has one bathroom. I don't think it would have been he wouldn't have felt good about that. He would have been in someone else's kitchen, and he's very set in his ways. He's very independent. He wanted to have his independence.
He'll have that freedom.
And now he does. He has his independence and his freedom and his privacy. Yeah. And yet we can be there and be part of his life. And he can be part of our life. Our daughter just got engaged. They were going to have a little dinner over at their house, which is also right next door to us. So, he awesome. Gets to spend time with his granddaughter and soon his future son-in-law. So I think that all in all, I can't imagine. I think Jeff McNeely, our congressional representative, said that at our, he was at the Mission Complete ceremony.
He was, yes. Yeah.
And he said he felt like this was like a really inspired model for seniors, especially our senior veterans, to have the independence of a tiny house. It's not too much for them to care for, yet it gives them that opportunity. And it's wonderful that Purple Heart Homes is focused in their mission on making sure that veterans have what they need.
That's very well said.
Housing's so important, right?
Absolutely. And for those tiny homes, that's exactly what their purpose is designed for, to give veterans the dignity of being able to live on their own.
Yeah.
And
have their own space.
I'm so glad that we were able to be a part of making that happen for Fred.
It's
and
huge.
Just seeing his humility and like seeing his appreciation for it was I don't know, I still got chills. Like I still think about that was like the most wonderful experience I've had.
It's huge. And Mary came, his sister, to visit him.
I know.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing to be part of. I hate to do it, but we've got to go take a break. We got to pay for the show, the advertisers, and all that good stuff. You've been listening, Putting the Pieces Back Together.
Dear friends and supporters, as we prepare to welcome in 2025, we at Purple Heart Homes are looking ahead with hope and determination to make this year even more impactful for the veterans that we serve. Thanks to your generosity, we've built ramps, renovated homes, and transformed the lives of over 233 veterans and their families. But there's still more to do. Right now, several projects are waiting to get started, and we need your help to make them happen. Together, we can ensure that disabled veterans and their families receive the homes they've dreamed of, fought for, and deserve. This is your chance to be a part of something truly meaningful. Your gift, whether it's $20, $50, or $100, will bring us closer to completing these projects and giving the veterans the safety, security, and dignity that they've earned. Let's start 2025 off strong and make it a year of action and impact. Donating has never been easier. We're even accepting donations through Venmo. Together, we can change lives and honor those who have sacrificed so much for our freedom. Thank you for your continued support and commitment to the Purple Heart Homes mission.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together. You're joining Leah Gutierrez, Devil Dog Devin, and Miss Susan Rash.
That's right.
Yes. What an exciting couple segments we've already had so far.
Well, yeah, but in between the segments, we had to take an extended break, which was crazy.
Ran across the parking lot to get some wonderful news.
That's right. You want to tell them the news?
So we have completed 1,505 projects for our veterans.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
That is crazy.
And I want to point out that, come to find out, and I didn't know this, that when you reach the age of 60, is that the VA will start, or you start going into a nursing home? Is that what he said?
You can go into a nursing home, the VA.
So that is what John said is like $150,000 a year.
Wow.
To put someone in a nursing home. And you think about how much money goes into that and taxpayers, and we're able, because of generous donations and volunteers, we're actually able to keep a veteran in their own home for an extended amount of time for like fractions.
Right. The cost of our average project, if for those of you who don't know, is $12,500. Wow. That's our average cost, which allows a veteran to stay in their home.
Yep.
So just one time of doing that, I mean, if they just stay in their house one more year, you've saved the American taxpayer $137,500. I ain't very good at
I'm
math.
getting ready to cry.
Man, that's amazing. And that's what we do here. And if you want to be part of that, go to phhusa.org and donate now to help a veteran. And if you can't donate, get some sweat equity in there. Get on that volunteer list. There's a project coming near you.
Yep. But back to Miss Susan.
Let's get back. Yeah. So Susan, you've had a huge career in the recording industry as well. You've been with quite some big stars out there, all the like the 90s country stars like Reba McEntire.
Good country music.
Oh yeah, the good country music. What was that like?
Oh, it was crazy. I didn't really know much about country music because I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware, and Philadelphia was the next biggest city. So we got all of our media from Philadelphia. Philadelphia sports, Philadelphia TV stations, Philadelphia radio stations, and it was one of the only major markets in the United States that did not have a country station.
No kidding.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So, aside from just being a Yankee in general, I was like really a Yankee because I didn't have
No clue.
I had no clue. I didn't even know who George Jones was until I moved to Nashville when I was.
You didn't know who George Jones was?
Nope.
Wow.
Well, think about it though. Like Conway Twitty crossed over and Dolly Parton crossed over. She was in 9 to 5 and Rhinestone Cowboy and all these like whatever that movie was she was in.
Yeah.
With, Best Little House in Texas, whatever it was. With Sylvester Stallone. But the country stars that crossed over into pop were the only ones I knew.
Right.
Were the ones that were on the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour. I didn't really know any country artists. So moving to Nashville and working in the country music industry was an eye opener for me. But I loved it. And that's when Nashville was at its greatest. Now it's kind of overrun with 20-somethings posing.
It's almost all pop music now.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's not country.
Right. But okay, so I'll give you my explanation on that very quickly. If you think that country music or any music is a reflection of the people who are making it, music is influenced by the music that you listen to. So country music that we all love, the old kind of classic country, was influenced by like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and like American standard music. Then the music that country music became popular in the 80s and 90s was music made by people who were influenced by John Lennon and Paul McCartney and singer-songwriters. So that music became more like that. And then, the Garth Brooks generation, those people were influenced by like Kiss and Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith. So country music got more like rock and roll.
It did, yeah.
Now this generation.
Chris
LeDoux. Chris LeDoux. I have a great Chris LeDoux story, which I'll tell y'all later. But anyway, because I got to work 2 albums with Chris. But this generation, they were influenced by the Beastie Boys and Linkin Park and hip hop as much as they are the music they listen to today. So that's why country music has kind of taken on that sort of like more hip hop element, because this younger generation that's making it, that is the music of the day for them. So, old timers like us, we can complain. It's not what it used to be. It doesn't what it sounds like, but hey, it is what it is. So anyway.
So you had a funny story. I don't know if you've got enough time to tell it now. There was a story where you may have gotten tackled.
Yeah. Well, no. Okay. So I'll tell you, Rocky always says this is my brush with greatness. So, I found out who George Jones was because he was signed to the record label that I was working for, MCA Records. So I eventually not only found out who he was, I used to go to the Gerst House in Nashville and have pig knuckles with him on Wednesdays, and his wife, Nancy. So anyway, George, I don't know if I'll have enough time to tell the story, but George used to have Roger Clinton in his employ. So one day I was sitting at my desk. This is the very beginning of cell phones where people could like tap into your cell phone and like listen to your conversation.
Clinton, Bill Clinton's brother?
Bill Clinton's brother. And Bill was up for re-election, and Time magazine was about ready to do a cover story on Roger. And they found out that he worked for George Jones for a while. So they called me. I was the publicist working at the label, and I answered the phone. And he's like, I'm this reporter from Time magazine, and we're doing a cover story on George Jones. And we understand that the president's brother worked for George for a time. Could we speak to someone in George's camp about the circumstances of his employment and then also his dismissal? I guess they had heard he had been fired.
Oh.
Yeah, so I said, all right, well, give me your number and I'll call you back. So I called Nancy Jones and on her cell phone, George's wife and manager. And I told her about their inquiry, and she said, I'm not going to talk to you on a cell phone. I'll call you back when I get to the house. Clunk, and she hung up on me. And then like 15 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was Nancy, and she said, well, yes, he did work for us, but we have no interest in talking about that. And I said, well, what happened? She said, well, he got fired. I said, well,
oh my.
Right. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, he was our merchandise manager, and we found out he was stealing from George Jones.
No
And I
kidding.
said, I guess he was skimming a little off the top in the merchandise sales department. And I said, well, oh, really? Oh, that's horrible to hear. Is that why he got fired? And she said, no, he got fired for selling cocaine to the band. Who at the time were at the time called the Jones Boys. So I said, well, no wonder you don't want to talk about this. It's the president's brother. So
no kidding. Yeah.
I said, okay, well, I'll call back and I'll tell him no comment. So I hung up with her. And then as I was dialing the phone back, I thought, oh my goodness, this is like the most important I'm ever going to be in this world, because I am sitting here with knowledge of dirt on the president of the United States' brother, and I cannot tell it.
And there's an election coming up.
I'll never be more powerful. I'll never be in a more powerful position than I am right now. So I called him and said no comment. So anyway.
Well, yeah, you did the right thing, because that's one of those things that no matter what side.
Well, you had a career to look out for too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So someday when y'all have me back, I'll tell you my other George Jones stories. I got a couple other good ones. We went through quite a bit with George.
That's awesome.
Yeah, when I was the publicist at MCA, I was the publicist on duty when Conway Twitty had his, aneurysm in his stomach on his tour bus and passed away. It was a big deal. There was a lot of moments. I was the publicist on record when the Judds broke up, and lots of and when Winona was pregnant out of wedlock, and we had to make that announcement. Lots of.
And that was in the 90s when
that was a big
like,
deal.
That was a big deal then. Yeah.
That was a big deal. So,
I remember the people saying scandalous things about her.
Yes,
and
that was quite the scandal. Yeah. So, I have lots of really good stories. Rocky says I should write a book. I'm not sure.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, maybe just do a series of podcasts.
Yeah. That's a good idea. But yeah, it was a great career. I had a lot of fun. And then, my last job was working for Alan Jackson. I worked as part of his management team. But, at that time I met Rocky, and I was thinking, I wanted to kind of back out of a little bit. At 22 years, that's a long time. If I'd worked for the government, I'd been retired.
That's true. Yep. Oh, yeah, man.
So, yeah. So I have lots of gold records up on my wall, and lots of good memories, and all the MCA folks, we get together for reunions every once in a while. So yeah, if I was going to spend 20 years doing something, it was just as good as anything, but not as good as working for a charity.
That's right.
Man.
Listen, if I had to do it all again, forget the record business. Glamorous. Yeah.
Well, we're going to put a pin in it right there. No. We got to go to break.
Y'all
putting the pieces back together.
Y'all do the good work.
I'm Antonio Lewis from, oh yeah, let me start over. 9/11, after 9/11, so I'm a junior, you see what I'm saying, when that happened. And when it happened, it was in the back of my mind. Okay, I'll go into the military. I was in, like I said, a year. I was in 2003, the incident happened in 2004, stuck me in the arms room, you know, did that, and then there was a mission where, hey, one of the members, you know, passed away and I had to go pick up his rifle. So that's how I ended up, you know, going out on a mission, and that mission got hit on the way back, right? And people died, you know. I was one of the lucky ones that, hey, you know, yeah, my hearing and those things, but it was just like, hey, I'm good. You get older, you start like, hey, is this normal? You know, that concussion, that TBI, you know, those different things, and start talking to different doctors and just realize that, hey, you're not okay. Coming here to Texas with the opportunity to go to school, had a son, right? Find out, hey, I can have kids, you know? And growing up without a home, you know, just moving around a lot, going from place to place, that's something that I challenged myself, that my son will always have a place to stay. So bought a house, you know, and didn't understand what was going into that, you know, just all the responsibilities that come with owning a home. We had a bunch of rain here, and it got to the point where the roof started leaking. And so it just got, between that, you know, childcare, cost of living, became a struggle. So that's where my buddy was just like, hey, Purple Heart Homes, you know, reached out to them, and I wasn't expecting to get back with me so soon, but they did. September, I got a brand new roof. It was bright and early. I mean, if you could see the street, it was all flooded. You know, it was hard to get it. My neighbors were looking at me crazy. You know, you got this hammering, you know, going on, and then you got these news crews showing up, and then you got Firehouse Roofing and all these guys just coming over and just saying, hey, I want to shake your hand and thank you for your service. It just humbled me, you know, and so it was just like, well, I didn't know what to do, but just take it in. Humbling experience, you know, we go through life, you know, challenges, and then when something like that happens to you, you're just at a loss for words, you know, and like I said, I'm forever grateful for Purple Heart Homes, Owens Corning, and Firehouse Roofing, just for that, you know, that love. I just thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.
And welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us and listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We've heard some fabulous stories from Susan Rash, and
you couldn't say her name for a second. You're always giving me a hard time about not being able to say names, and there you go.
You know, it's my day. Let me have it. Okay?
It is your birthday. I'll let you have a pass.
Thank you. But again, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Devin, he got me so
I got you flustered. Oh my gosh.
But we've just heard some wonderful stories and that you've done in your career. But again, we want to get back to your passion for helping veterans and your tribute
To the troops.
And you have some wonderful things coming up. And
yes. I mean, what Tribute does, recently we went national. So, in fact, it's funny because John Galena, you know, co-founder of Purple Heart Homes, was, he and I would talk on the phone a lot when we were going through the process of nationalizing, because when we started out, you know, a lot of charities, that's why I love the nonprofit world, because I actually feel like if our government was really smart, they would do everything in their power to empower nonprofits. Mm-hmm. Because usually a nonprofit is started by someone that's had some kind of life-altering situation, mm-hmm. right?
That's absolutely true.
Child dies of cancer, super rare, no one's done any research on it. You start a charity to get people to focus their attention and resources on that, right? Purple Heart Homes, we all know why John and Dale started Purple Heart Homes. Tribute to the Troops, same thing. Rocky started Tribute to the Troops because it was a completely organic thing. I'll tell that story very quickly to you guys. But he wrote a song called Fly Home, and he used to perform it every night during his shows. So when he was touring anywhere, whether it was the Bank in Minot, North Dakota, or wherever he was playing, he would always stop his show and pay tribute to the veterans. Just a few minutes in the middle of his show, he would always ask, are there any veterans in the room? And they would stand up. And he would do this song called Fly Home, which was it's a tribute to those who made the ultimate sacrifice. And one time he did it in Minneapolis, and this guy came up to him and he said, I'm a film professor at Brown College or something. And he said, His name is John Murray. And he said, it was the first year of the Iraqi conflict. And they were going to put together, his students were going to put together a film paying tribute to the fallen heroes from the state of Minnesota, the state of Wisconsin, and the state of North Dakota, because they're all sort of right near each other. And at that point, I think there were 7 or 8 heroes who had lost their life in that first year of the conflict. And he said, "Can we use your song? And how much do you want me to pay you for it?" And Rocky said, "No, I don't want you to pay me for it. I just want you to bring it. Whatever you put together using my music, bring it to me and let me see it." So like 7 months later or something, the guy shows up with this cassette tape, or VHS, shows how long ago this was. And he comes on Rocky's bus and he plays it for him. And the video was just like general, like stock footage of different soldiers doing what soldiers do. And then when it got to the chorus, they put now I'm getting teared up. They put the photo of the fallen hero, the seal of the military, of the branch of the military that they were in, and the date they lost their life. And it was such a beautiful tribute, especially if you've heard the song "Fly Home," that he immediately said to his friend Greg Schmidt, who at the time was his booking agent, "Hey man, we need to bring this and show this to these families." So they looked at where the families were located on the map, and he was a recreational motorcycle rider. Rocky's he's had a motorcycle longer than before he had his driver's license. And Greg was a recreational rider. So they hopped on their bikes and they rode out to the homes and brought this tape to the families. And that's how Tribute started.
No kidding.
Yep. So now we've gotten away from motorcycles. We still have bikes. In fact, here we do an event every other year. The Ardell County Sheriff's Department, Darren Campbell, his deputies accompany us to keep us safe, but we also involve cars. So if you don't ride a motorcycle, you can still participate in our events. You can still come and stand in the front yard of these families and let them know that their sacrifice did not go unnoticed. And you can come to our banquets and you can be part of our name reading ceremonies, and you can you can meet these Gold Star families and hug them with your own arms. It's a beautiful sentiment. So right now we have a cruise coming up in October.
A cruise.
Yeah, it's the Rocky Lynn for the Love of Country cruise, and we're going to be honoring a family, doing a presentation to a Gold Star family in front of everyone in the showroom.
Wow,
and we're
that's
only going to be like
amazing.
a tiny part of the cruise too, because there'll be people from all over the world on this cruise, and they'll be able to see what we do for these families and be part of our mission. And if you miss that cruise, there's going to be other opportunities to participate in our events. Just go to tributetothetroops.org and you can see how you can participate with us. And we buy 529 education funds for kids who've lost a parent in active duty. So you can always make a donation and help send these kids to school. And it's just a lovely charity. And it's the nicest thing I've ever seen people do for other people, just because it's the right thing to do. And we can never
amazing.
forget our fallen. That's
Absolutely
so important.
I really, what you're doing over there with Tribute to the Troops. I mean, it's so moving to see these families who we always talk about the sacrifice that a soldier, a Marine, a sailor makes, but what a lot of folks don't realize is their family is sacrificing right along with them. You don't just lose one life; you're losing the life that so many other folks knew as well.
Absolutely.
The mothers and fathers, especially. I mean, you're not supposed to outlive your children.
Exactly.
And so often we forget about those who've been left behind. And so thank you for what y'all are doing over there.
It really is. Once you meet these families and wrap your arms around them, you don't want to, you never want to do anything else. Our paths cross a lot with Gary Sinise. Rocky's done a lot of shows opening for Gary. And, Gary does the Snowball Express. Every year he brings Gold Star families. I think it started in the wintertime taking families to Disney or something. Now I think they go to Dallas or something. I don't know where it is. But, and people, I've heard Gary say things too, like, well, once you've done things to help Gold Star families, you just don't, it touches your heart so much. You just can't imagine not fulfilling that mission and not including them in the things that we do. I mean, it's great to honor our heroes who are here, but honoring those who have been left behind. And once again, nonprofits like yourself, that's where you really can get into the little cracks. The government can only fix things with really broad strokes because it's big and bulky and monolithic, but charities can get into the little cracks and really fix a lot of our problems as a society because they can and because they're motivated and they're usually micro-focused on
They
certain,
really are.
certain issues. And most charities, all that I am aware of, because they are governed by nonprofit rules and parliamentary procedure in their boards of directors, they stay very focused on that mission.
Yes.
Don't get distracted. So it is a really great way to micro focus on some of our issues, and especially the ones that support our military. Fantastic, right?
And there's a lot of them out there, and I guarantee if there's one that if you've got a particular cause with a veteran, there's a charity for you. But two of them very close to my heart are Purple Heart Homes, where we're helping veterans with their housing needs, and Tribute to the Troops, where we're honoring those who have fallen. And so, hey, if you want to donate to either one of those, phhusa.org. And what's that website for?
It's tributetothetroops.org.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so
I
you
know
could
about
be a
upcoming
part.
events and
If you go to tributetothetroops.com, the WWE or WW Worldwide Federal Wrestling
The Wrestling Federation, yeah,
comes up.
They have a
They have one
thing.
called Tribute to the Troops.
I think it's they used to do an event
They
every
used to,
year.
yeah, they don't do it
that
anymore.
anymore. It's kind of a dead website, I believe.
It is.
So if you go there, you're going to be lost.
It's .org.
You should ask them if they donate it to you.
Yeah, they should,
Get a
right?
tax write-off.
Yeah,
Maybe
don't
they
you
do
think?
that. Hey, Vince McMahon. Oh, Vince
Yeah.
McMahon ain't in charge anymore. Who's in charge now?
I don't know. But you're not going to see Hulk Hogan if you come to our events.
Have you asked him?
No, we
He might
haven't.
come.
No, but I'll tell you what, my husband's Rocky Lynn is little factoid, huge wrestling fan.
No
Watched it
kidding.
the whole time he was growing up. Have you guys seen the series that's behind, The Dark Side of the Ring or something like that? It's
No.
almost
I
fantastic.
wonder if he's met Chad.
Tells all the stories about these guys.
Has
when
Rocky
they-
met Chad
No
Lale?
kidding.
He's a deputy. He was a wrestler on WWE.
Yeah, we had a deputy sheriff
Iredell
on
County.
here in Iredell County. He's a professional wrestler, Chad Lale.
I had no. Is Chad still a deputy right
Yeah,
now?
He
we
is.
just
Yeah,
interviewed
we gotta
him
meet
not too long
Gosh,
ago.
what was his wrestling name? Jackson Riker.
Riker.
And then he had another one too. But yeah, he was WWF
Well, listen,
guy.
Rocky Lynn has seen so many celebrities. You know, we've been on the red carpet at the CMAs and the Grammys and all
yeah.
kinds of places. He's seen so many celebrities. He's never starstruck. And we ran into Nature Boy, Ric Flair, at the Charlotte airport. And I've never seen Rocky so starstruck. He was
No
like,
kidding.
I have to go get my picture made with him.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did. He interrupted him. He's like, "Sir, do you mind? I'm a huge fan." It was really funny. And have you guys seen? I mean, there's a documentary about Ric Flair that's just amazing. I mean, I'm into the whole like palace intrigue behind the scenes of the
I'd
wrestling
love
world.
to watch it. I'm going to start searching those up because I watched that a lot when I was younger. You know,
Dark Side of the Ring is what it's called.
Dark Side of the Ring. I met Ric Flair when I was real little. I had always thought he was a tiny man because I saw him on TV next to much bigger people. And then I was like, oh.
Yeah. And, you know, his daughter was a wrestler for a while, too. And a sad story about his son, you know, watch that documentary. It's really, it's very heartfelt. He's and he's from here. He's a Charlottonian.
Yeah, he is. He's from Charlotte. Yeah.
What do they call them? Charlatans or
Charlatans, I
Charlottonians?
think.
Charlatan. I don't think I like the name charlatan, Susan.
Well, listen, you guys are doing great work. I want to say that before we close here today because you are doing such great work. And like I said, I reflect on, like I was thinking about doing a book about my music industry career, and people are like, oh, so exciting. But you know what? If I don't have any regrets in life, but if I had my whole life to do over again, I would go into the nonprofit sector because it is really and truly the most fulfilling work you can do. You're not going to get rich, but you will.
That's true.
You're
Get
rich
fulfilled.
in your heart.
Yes.
And that's really the thing that matters more is when you. When you're old, you'll appreciate what you do right now.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together.
Thank you. You'll have to steal something somewhere else.
We just end it right there. That's fine. So right now, he started that clock, Susan, because this is what we
bonus
call
content.
Yeah.
Bonus content.
Oh wow, you're still
for
on
the
my line.
internet?
Yeah. Yeah, this is
that
for
way if
YouTube.
there's stuff
so
that
if
we
you have
didn't catch.
anything else that you would like to say, this is where
How
you can
long
say
do
it.
we bonus?
We can bonus. We can bonus no more than 18 minutes.
Yep.
'Cause, did you bring your car around?
No, I got to run to
You
the
can
back
do
and get
this bonus no more than 10 minutes.
it. So there's a run-in with the Secret Service.
Me? Oh, Rocky told that story? How
No.
dare he?
No, we haven't heard it.
This is really funny. Okay,
Yeah.
It's funny. So, if you've ever been to a Rocky Lynn concert, especially if he is doing his patriotic show, he always ends his show with two people who are significant to the event. So if it's like a gold star, the gold stars in the audience as he's introduced earlier, or if it's a charity event, he'll bring the founder of if we do a show forever for Purple Heart Homes, he'll bring out John Galena and, someone else from the charity to come out to hold the American flag at the finale. So this is where he ends his show. He always ends it with God Bless America. It's a medley of red, white, and blue, goes right into God Bless America, and then ends with the national anthem. So I have a cue where I have to recruit the two people that are going to come up on the stage for the finale, and I have to brief them on what to do. Like, here's the flag, and you have to hold it this way, and here's when you go up, and then here's how you unfurl it. And it has to be in place for the anthem so that everyone has a flag to salute. So it's a timed thing. So we were at the National Guard convention. We were at some military convention. It was a really important one. And there were all kinds of dignitaries in the audience. And I'm standing in the hallway chatting with the merchandise person. And then all of a sudden I hear him go into, "Will the circle be unbroken?" That's my cue. I got to get going. So I run into the dressing room. I grab this backpack. It's got the flag in it. And I take off running into the hall. And immediately out of nowhere, these 5 Secret Service guys come out of nowhere. Literally. Like, I don't even know where they came from. And man, and they all surround me. And I mean, they weren't drawing their weapons, but they enveloped me.
Them.
Yes.
Man.
They stopped me.
Wow.
And they "What do you have in that backpack?" And I was like, "It's a flag." I'm going into the stage, and I was trying to explain to them what I was doing, but yeah, it was bad. They stopped me.
So they did you say they did not pull their guns?
No, but they were ready.
Hand on the hip?
Yeah, exactly. And they surrounded me. They were not letting me go anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah. So don't do that.
Don't
Don't run
that.
with the black bag.
And
at an event with a lot
With
of
a military event, yeah.
Yeah, that's
with a lot of dignitaries in the
audience.
audience. So I ended up having a similar thing at Fort Knox, which next time you guys have me on, but twice I've been stopped by military police and or Secret Service because I was acting suspicious.
What
but
are you doing with your life?
I didn't mean it. Isn't that funny?
Oh my!
But I guess you don't mess around on military bases.
Oh,
No, generally, unless
and it was like DEF CON.
junior enlisted, they mess around a lot. If you haven't been around any.
In the military.
Oof, yeah. There's some bad stories.
The gray areas.
Yeah, you know what? I should someday tell some of my stories about things that we did and that I could have really gotten in some trouble for. What's the statute of limitations? What do you think, Susan?
I don't know. In the military?
Yeah, for things that
I don't know
you
what
do
court-martial statutes are. Are they the same as they are in the real people world? I always say that when somebody says
In the real
it's
people
2,200 hours. I'm like, what's that in real people time? Because I don't know what that means.
There are
22.
so many times where people will have guests that are veterans and they'll be spitting out military jargon, and I have to pretend like I don't know what it means so that for the benefit of our audience who might be listening. And Leah's one of the worst. She'll just throw out an acronym and just start rolling, and the veteran that's sitting in that seat knows exactly what she's talking about. And I got to go, hold on one second. What does that mean? And
well, I bet you guys, in the military, Rocky makes fun in his shows about all the acronyms, but, in the military, I guess you have to be a stickler for certain things, right? That's why his shows always start on time, because that's a military thing. And, you have a military ceremony, you start it on time.
Yeah.
And he talks all the time about protocol. When he acknowledged, sometimes to do a military show, and he'll acknowledge the members of the military in the audience and call out the different branches. Well, I didn't realize, but there's a certain order.
there is, yeah.
And you hear about it after the show.
Yeah,
and he always does Army last because there's always so many.
Yeah.
Like if he says Army, like all of them, he doesn't want to do like the real order because then it's kind of anticlimactic because there's so few people represented in the other branches.
That's
compared
true.
to the
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah.
Space Force, and you like hear the crickets.
Or no, it's usually like Coast Guard. Oh, there's the one guy in the Coast Guard. If that. But do you know what the actual proper order is?
I think it's Army, Marines, Navy.
Did he give us more time?
No, what it is, it's counting up instead of down.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we are going to have to roll out of here anyway.
What's the order?
I think it's Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, or Air Force, Coast Guard.
Guard.
I believe that's
It's
correct.
usually how they play it's how they play the music, the medley. That's in the correct order, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you guys have been to
That's
events where they play the
true.
medley.
Yeah.
So
You know
the
what? We
Army
need to
Force.
ask. I was gonna say ask a musician.
right, but I understand what you're saying about protocol because I think and about how military people are kind of like they have their whole like inner language and code.
There is so many things that we say from the military that is just complete nonsense to civilians. And then
And there's things that civilians do, and we're like, what are you doing?
When they try to do that the like phonic thing, like where you're like alpha, bravo.
Yeah, Alpha, Bravo,
I know,
Charlie,
and then I talk
Delta,
to people on the
Echo,
phone, they're like-
Foxtrot.
And then you talk to like civilians, and they're going like G as in George,
Right.
B as in Bob,
Right.
H as in Harold.
Right,
And I'm
and you're
like,
like, what?
I always use the phonetic alphabet
Yeah,
when
me
I'm
too.
trying to.
that's what I was telling him. I was trying to spell someone's last name. I was like V as in Victor.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it now because I'm married to one.
Yeah.
That's got to be a Victor, Indigo,
Indigo.
Charlie.
Yeah.
All right.
Hotel.
Hotel.
Golf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Listen, I learned it.
Yeah.
I'm married to him.
Yep.
Oh, man. Speaking of Mary, before we go, Rocky's got a new album out, right?
He does. It's called Love. Followed the Faith album. Now Love. Hope will be next.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I've got to get him to sign my album. I've got it on vinyl.
Well, he would love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've
we
got
know
to
where to
get
find
that.
him.
That's right. Yeah.
We know where to find him.
To the next show.
Come to the next show. That's
RockyLynn.com.
22nd.
Yep. At Twisted Oak.
Yep. Good deal.
Oh.
We'll have
Date
to.
night.
It
Date
is.
Night.
Oh, that
Listen,
sounds
it's
great.
dinner theater style. He only does one every winter.
Oh, it's dinner theater
Yeah,
style.
you-
I definitely
Listen,
might
you
sign up for
come
this.
and
Yeah.
you sit there. I'll put you on the guest list so you can afford to have dinner.
Yeah,
going on with
we do work
prices,
for
right?
a nonprofit. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what's going on with prices? Like Wendy's, I went to Wendy's for his band rehearsal the other night.
Oh my gosh.
I ordered Wendy's for like 6 people and it was like $90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
So,
I was like telling my husband, I was like, a family of 5. I was like, we can actually go sit down at a restaurant and eat for the same price as we can at some of these fast
that
foods.
is
It's
insane
insane.
with
Yeah.
the fast food. Yeah,
It's
I don't
gotten
know what's
crazy.
going on there.
Yeah, we're cooking at home a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
me-
do too.
me
Yeah.
You know, I cooked a Wagyu steak dinner the other night for like 4 people. And I mean, it's like $200. But when I thought about how much it would have cost us
In
to
a
go
restaurant?
out. Oh, yeah.
Where'd you get the Wagyu?
If you're local to the area, Mooresville, North Carolina, Lowe's is the only place you can get Wagyu. A5 now. This is A5. This is the best you can get within like 100 miles of us.
Lowe's in Mooresville.
Lowe's in
Love
Mooresville.
that restaurant. I mean, I love that shopping
Yeah, the
complex.
chain,
I
yeah.
love it.
And they get both the ribeyes and the New York strips. You didn't know you was going to get culinary advice.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
but I'm in.
a man of many talents.
I'm in.
Like 4. Well, Susan, you have been an absolutely
joy.
wonderful guest.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. It's so nice visiting with you guys.
Thank you
Yes.
for coming today. And I mean, you made me laugh. You made me cry. You went through the whole gambit. So we really
Emotional
appreciate you being on. You got any final thoughts?
No, you took them.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
was
Stole
kidding.
your final thoughts on your
Yeah.
birthday. That's terrible.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Leah.
I'll be 27 again.
That's right. I put 29 on your card.
It's okay. I'll take that
You'd
too.
like to talk to someone about the misprint on the card, please.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you have a wonderful day, Susan, and you have been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.